My name is Catherine Jernstrom. Thanks for coming to 1 Million Cups. 1 Million Cups is a weekly event that happens every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. in over 50 cities nationwide. The structure is the same every week. We invite a different entrepreneur up to present their business or startup for 6 minutes, and then the audience, you, asks questions, provides feedback and insights, and it's to create open, honest space for entrepreneurs to learn and grow their business. It was started in Kansas City in 2012 by a group of entrepreneurs at the Kauffman Foundation. And part of the issues going on in Kansas City at the time were they had a pretty vibrant startup culture, but it was pretty fractured and isolated. Entrepreneurs maybe weren't finding the services and support they needed, or the people who they could bounce ideas off of. And so this group decided to ask the question, how could you change the face of our entrepreneur startup community by connecting entrepreneurs over 1 million cups of coffee? So that's where the name came from. That's why we have coffee. Claudia Brothers, our partner. And so this morning we have FairBikes, our friends from FairBikes, to talk about a bike share program. And hopefully we'll have the screen working here in a few minutes. Otherwise, take it away.
Yours might start working.
I'll work on it as you go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So you'll see pictures rolling around. We also have a hard copy we'll pass around to you.
Unfortunately, we only brought one, so
or one
you
this
have
morning.
to share.
I'm Jennifer Eskridge,
I'm John Stoneman.
and we together are FairBikes. FairBikes is
A bike share.
fun you can feel good about. Here's a hard copy. Are anybody here familiar with bike shares? Okay, so
That's actually about twice as many as we usually get in the crowd.
exactly.
So that's good.
We frequently get asked, you want to share our bike? No. A bike share, for those of you who don't know, is a system that's set up to deploy bicycles for short commutes. You're able to walk up to, in places like Washington, D.C. or Minnesota, they have nice rides programs. Boston's Subway, you put in your information in a large kiosk, and you're able to take a bicycle and go wherever you want to go and leave it wherever you leave it, as long as it's in another like kiosk.
We like to say that this is sort of fun you can feel good about, but also that it's like all the fun and the responsibility
Of having a bicycle. So, when John and I first started this venture, it was, I'll give you a little more background. John and I are grant writers and we do fund development. We work with local nonprofits to help them diversify the ways that they receive income and revenue so they can do their work. Most of the places that we work with are 95% grant funded, and so we found that overwhelming.
And we were looking for other ways to diversify the revenue streams, including entrepreneurial revenue generation that was really quite new and unusual for nonprofits.
Especially at least in our community, and that would not disrupt their 501c3 status. So we began studying about different entrepreneurial business models, and we ended up taking the Udacity course from Steve Blank, and we were reading Lead Launch, and all the things that you all are very familiar with. And so after a very heroic effort with a grant, we woke up the next day and I told John I'm eating ice cream for breakfast. He said, no sweat. We met at our spots, and he opened up his email, and there was a startup weekend coming to Fairbanks. And it was coming the very next day. So we decided we'd go and we'd see what everybody was doing, and we'd lurk and we'd offer our services.
Yes. Well, it was really, we really thought we were going to be able to go there, watch the pitches. Of course, we had to pitch as well, because you had to participate if you wanted to play. But we thought that we'd be able to offer our service to the winner and use it as a case study. We could even do it pro bono. We'd have this really great opportunity to connect with them, explore how to do this, real life.
We came to learn, and boy did we learn. We started by winning, which was marvelous and exciting and overwhelming. But we spent about a week discussing
it
the
blew
options.
our marketing plan.
Yeah, it did blow our marketing plan. Discussing the options, and decided we would find out if our community really wanted a bike share. So we went out and we attended 25 events from the middle of May during Bike to Work Week while it was still snowing, and we did that all the way through September, where we attended a rec fest that was aimed at university students, where 90% of the participants that day happened to be under the age of 3, because we were sharing this space with the Children's Museum Without Walls. But that meant that we got to talk to their parents as well, and we got some very critical customer discovery information. So when you when you're in another community that has a bike share, you either have a membership or you can purchase a casual use ridership at a kiosk, but the kiosks are large. and they cost about 50 grand, and that's before you put a bicycle to one, and they require utility hookup. In Fairbanks, at 40 below, it doesn't have to move to grade.
In fact, that's one of the first things we decided we needed to discard was the fact that these things couldn't be that big, that expensive, that breakable, because they had to be moved for like snow removal. We were not planning to be out all year long. We're planning to be seasonal. Just there was too many things that didn't work there, so the kiosks had to go.
So the first thing we did was look to put the technology on the bicycles. We're also, Fairbanks is the size of Israel, New Jersey, okay, in terms of space. But we only have 13 people per square mile if you look at us that way. That isn't the kind of population density you really want to see for a bike share. So the first thing we did was figure out what our activity nodes were, and we realized right away that we couldn't put kiosks of any kind at the half-mile interval that are optimal for bike shares. So we worked with our engineers to create a hybrid lock, and what that means is that you can lock up. Your bikes are made to lock up to a proprietary bike rack, which you all will see in the handout. Is a very low profile, looks like a candy cane. Doesn't really look like a candy cane. It's shaped like that. And
I think it looks like a Loch Ness Monster, actually.
Right. But you can also lock it up to any bike rack, which later becomes critical. We discover
For a couple of reasons.
for a couple of reasons.
Yes.
Help me out, buddy.
Well, both marketing, because it means that we have something to offer to people, as in our proprietary racks have a certain advantage for people, but we don't actually need a proprietary rack to lock up to. So, like, basically, they need us more than we need them. That's actually quite important. Also, simply because in Fairbanks, we found out that a lot of the state roads basically take several years to permit anything to be parked next to it. So it's really important you can lock up to the racks that are, let's say, next to the borough bus system, as opposed to a proprietary rack.
We've been really fortunate working with our community. Our city and our borough are prepared to do some pretty amazing things in terms of helping us permit. Let's see, I'm going to just move these along really quickly for us. This is a classic bike station kiosk.
And this, by the way, costs about $50,000, and it has about 20 spaces for bikes. They're pretty cool.
We are teaming with A2B Bike Share. There's a group out of Michigan who helped develop the first smart bike. This is what our technical is versus smart rack. This is what our bike share bikes look like. All the technology is here. Solar panels, gives the energy needed to run the log-on screen. You can do that with a credit card or with Bike Touch. These are our low-profile racks.
What's significant about the technology on the bikes is that replaces the kiosk. That, of course, reduces our cost by about a quarter of what the standard bike share is. It also makes them more flexible because, of course, you basically can rent the bike from any spot you find the bike. You don't need the kiosk to rent the bike.
If you want to use the bicycles, you can become a member for $75 a year. We also have other segmented markets, but that's just for typical annual subscription. If you're a casual user or a guest to Fairbanks, you can just swipe your credit card. It'll let you take the bike for $5 an hour. The first 30 minutes is included in every single bike ride if you're a member. That means if you get on the bike one time or 100 times that day, the first 30 minutes are completely free. If you ride for more than 30 minutes without stopping to lock your bike, it'll add $2. The next 30 minutes is $4. I believe we've decided we'll cap at $6. The idea is we want you to stop. It's not gaming the system to stop your bike and unlock it and lock it and relock it. We've designed it for you to do that because we're pretty sure that part of the time when you're locking and relocking, you'll think, oh, man, I'm dry as dirt. Let's go get something to drink right here, and then we'll come right back and take the rest of our ride. Or, hey, you know what? I don't have to park. I can go right away and get that book I wanted and throw it in the basket. It's designed to help increase local economy.
Also, it's actually also designed to be very quick to log in, because basically one of the things we discovered, particularly after talking to Sue from New South Wales, who was adamant that these bikes, you had to be like swipe the card, get on the bike within like a minute, because she had been to France just the year before, was still upset that she had not been able to get on their bicycles because they gave her a page and a half form to fill out that she never completed.
She was sitting in Alaska a whole year later, really ticked off. It was kind of amazing.
Yeah. So we basically want to have very low barriers to use. So basically anybody can walk up and literally be on the bike in 30 seconds, even if they're brand new.
Even if they're brand new. This is John in a place where, you would perhaps need your overtime fee.
Okay, and notice in that picture, that's fine. In that picture, I was actually with a tandem bicycle. One of the things with a modular lock system means that the frame is no longer that significant. Yes, you do want like a very easy to use, bicycle, but it could be an easy to use, tandem or even easy to use bike that has like a tag along for a 4-year-old. There's a lot of different possibilities when you have a modular system.
We mentioned earlier that one of our last events, when we were figuring out whether or not we were going to launch as a business, we launched at the end of that month, is that we had all these toddlers and parents, and their parents were really excited, and this is a great idea, and we'd love to do this. And about 10 kids in, I looked up at a parent and I said, how often are you alone? And they were like, oh, no, never. And I said, so if you had a child who's 4'8", so picture 8 years old about, right? And there was a helmet involved, would you put them on a tandem? And they were like, oh yeah. And I said, all right, if there's a helmet involved and there's a tag along, would you put your 4-year-old on it? They're like, absolutely. And that's when we really sat down with the engineers and said, okay, so in addition to that hybrid lock, we need to figure out how to get it all on the front forks and the handlebars. So here is a picture of our bike. The FairBikes bike is a rugged cycle. They have, they're made of aluminum, so they're rust-free. There's intense durability. These, check, just a second. You can now see they have airless tires, which we think will mean thousands of miles with no flats. These organizations down here are all organizations that use rugged cycles on their campuses. The durability, they're only about 40 pounds, which is about the average, kind of casual bike use bike. And they're step-through Dutchies with the giant basket on the back, but they're made to endure. And one of the slicker things about, I forgot to tell you, John, this is actually the drive shaft.
One of the things, of course, you want these to be low maintenance. You also want these to be very user-friendly. These bikes use a drive shaft rather than a chain. That means, fewer instances of lost chains, fewer instances with people with pants caught in the chain. It's just supposed to be, it's actually supposed to be a bike you don't have to use spandex to ride.
The airless tires, which you've now gotten briefly to see for a couple of times, also are going to reduce our maintenance. Here's the one.
Okay. This is one of those things this is just like red wine. It's good for you. Actually, it's going drinking and bicycling, I think, but
No.
Not really. But biking is actually really good for you, but that's really kind of in addition to just the fact that people like to bike. And so it's one of the things we're trying to emphasize with this whole presentation is that while it has lots of benefits, the real reason to get on is that people enjoy it.
You'll find that there are different organizations that sponsor bike shares for their employees. One of them is Humana out of Louisville. The next one is where we're putting our bicycles in Fairbanks.
You want these spaced so that people can actually see where the next location is to bike to. These are meant for casual users to pick up and bike when they are not sure if they can bike a mile. But that said, the whole goal of bike sharing is to make it so convenient that basically people who never bike get on bikes, people who bike occasionally do it more, and hardcore bikers can get on bikes even when they're stuck without a bike.
Among the revenue streams that we have to make FairBikes work, station subscriptions. We don't put stations just anywhere. We choose to work with local businesses because then they get pedal up parking. We have on the bicycles are the digital displays that you can log into with either on the touchpad or with your credit card. And on those digital displays are also maps that show you how to get around, and additionally, there's space for ads there. Because what we know about advertising is that it's most effective at the point of decision making, which means that if you clip the coupon out of your newspaper, that's great, but you may or may not remember to use it. If you know that there's a sale happening in the store when you walk through the door, that might be useful to you if it's what you're looking for. But the moment that it's going to be the most effective is when you pull up. So if you pedal up to your store and it says, hey, 20% off at the boardroom today for punch cards. And that's more likely to, and then it shoots to your smartphone, and that's more likely to bring you data about exactly how frequently those ads impact your customers. We also have memberships, usage fees, the $2 and $4. We're able to do events. One of the cool things about being able to lock to any bike is that, for instance, a friend of ours was in Chicago. She was going to the museum with her family, but there was a big bridge match at the stadium next door. And everybody had the same idea. They'd park away, ride the divvy bikes up, and not have to worry about parking when they got there, except everybody did it. And there were 100 slots for bikes, and there were 300 people, which makes for 200 very irritated human beings who can't park their bikes because they require proprietary racks. Because we can lock to any rack, if you're having for Rondi, we can make sure that there are extra bike racks that are there and available for the bicycles to be parked at. We, of course, will be doing digital advertising, which is one of the ways that we have a revenue stream.
Which actually pops up on the bikes, on the app, on your phone, or on the web.
And then for sponsors, the things that they get to be included in are also promotional, print, digital, all the social media, and then sponsorships are also part of our revenue stream.
Okay, so when we were getting ready for this, they asked to fill a bunch of questions, which I guess were supposed to go up before so they can be published. So I'm going to tell you the first 3 answers, I think are significant. Who is your customer? I put down people who breathe, 18 to question mark. Or what's the problem you're solving? All known human ills, particularly those associated with transportation. And what's your solution? Economic and social empowerment disguised as a bicycle. One of the things which we may come across soon is, we're kind of out of sync with our slides at this point, is that bike shares have found that for every bike that goes out, about $7 to $14 goes into the local economy. These are good for business. These bikes, you can get them and bike for free every 30 minutes. Every time you lock the bike, it starts again, which means that in a community like Anchorage, you can bike a really long ways in 30 minutes. You can go shopping. They have big baskets. We find that people get on bikes when they're traveling at human scale speed. They do, in fact, tend to interact more with the community. They tend to get off and shop more. To run into places that here I've circled the block 4 times. Here you just pull up, park, and run in to use whatever it is.
And I forgot what I was going to say.
And we probably want to make sure we have enough time for questions. So.
Yes, we want to be done now. That's what the technology on our bike looks like. Want a more close up. Some of the details: every time you bike a mile, you save about a pound of greenhouse gas. Blue Cross Blue Shield is another health insurer and major sponsor of several of the bike share programs throughout the country. The touch screen, what it looks like. Riders, this is a cool thing. So there's a link, I'm gonna just shoot ahead to it. So there's a website that's also a phone app, and you use it to track your membership, to pay for things, and also to check to see what you're doing. You can know how many miles you've bicycled, you can know how many calories you've burned, you can know what the impact of your carbon footprint is because you'll put in your car's rates of gallons per mile. And so that sort of thing. This is in Fairbanks, this is our market. Ooh, and now it's going really fast. In Anchorage, I'm not sure how different that would look. This means Fort Wainwright soldiers and families. This is just for the first year in terms of where our primary folks are coming from. Obviously, we mentioned it's good for your health. Boston has recently gotten permission to prescribe bike share memberships instead of medication for folks for whom that would be appropriate. We have a description of how we engage businesses to choose to subscribe to having a station in front of their business each year. We offer 10 of your employees or 10% workforce, plus a flat rate for the, I'm going too fast, aren't I? For a flat rate for the station. This is John and I having fun on our prototype. We mentioned earlier that we are grant writers. Together we've brought in almost $30 million to public funding in Alaska. This is, I'm going to make this one slow down. This is what we are looking for. We're looking for sponsors. Today we're looking for something a little different, but this is what our sponsorships get. The first year they get 100 bicycles. these are the things it provides. We've already talked about. Sponsors end up with position brands on equipment in highly visible areas, and they get to support public efforts to build community and encourage healthy and active lifestyles. And they provide long-term operation funding and help us develop resources to expand. And here's where we are today. We became FairBikes on November 1st, so 9 months later. We've retained our engineering team and our bicycle vendors. We've adapted the existing technology. We have, you go ahead and read, I'll handle this part.
Okay. We reduced the system share cost over 70% for 100 bikes manufactured and shipped. The technology has been beta tested and is ready for shipment as well. We have over 500 bike share memberships that have been pre-purchased and already in our system, which is significant because most bike share systems per 100,000 users have anywhere from 300 to 600 after a year. We're already at 500, actually 500 plus. We have a number of local businesses who have already purchased local advertising and sponsorship of stations, and the CM Pro and FMAX are regularly inviting us to all of their little events because it's becoming quite significant that they're restriping roads to make them more user-friendly for bicyclists in Fairbanks.
As well as other things. I'd love to tell you it's all about bike design. And we've been very fortunate in our media. We've had several articles written about us and radio shows and that sort of thing in our community. And today, what we're asking is for advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Good, we can keep going.
Okay. So hi. So I'm going to grab a chair so it's more like a conversation. Go ahead. I'm sorry, would you tell me your name?
I'm Jane Kerr.
Hi, Jane.
Hi. And thank you for this. I think it's an awesome idea. I wish you guys were here in Anchorage instead of Fairbanks.
That's actually part of our plan, is to come here to Anchorage as well. We've been a few people have spoken to us. Yeah.
Okay, because especially since in the past year I've lost 3 bikes stolen. Even with loss and stuff, that's 3 grand down the drain.
Yeah.
Right.
So knowing that I can pay $75 a year for something like this and just pay for usage is awesome. The question I do have is as far as lots of stolen bikes and if you have a 30-minute period, so I lock up my bike, I run into the store to grab a coffee, but I still want to be able to come out and grab the bike without someone taking it. Because if you're a member, you're like, ooh, a bike just popped up. Let me go.
Exactly.
So what happens if that happens?
Well,
Not really.
which do you want to start with, the theft idea first or the bike idea first?
So I'm going to speak here. Matt's trying to film us.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Move back. Okay, so the bikes are GPS and they also have accelerometers on there, which let us know a couple things. First off, let us know where they're at all the time. It also means that you as the user can locate them easily because you can pull up on your phone and see where they're at. That brings us to the next problem, which is what happens when you jump off the bike and run in. Well, you can also reserve your bike for 30 minutes before you are renting it, which means that you can reserve for 30 minutes when you go into the store, so you have 30 minutes to shop and then come back out and get back on the bike.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, just on the accelerometer issue, this is kind of fun because the accelerometer does do really cool things as far as theft prevention. Because like if anybody tries to steal the bike can dial 911 for itself. But also,
Makes me nervous, that idea, but keep going.
yes, but also it is an interesting safety feature because in Fairbanks we were noticing that we were getting a lot of response from people visiting our community who are like over 65. We're concerned that they might have accidents or just pass out when it's a hot day in Fairbanks.
They weren't concerned. I was concerned.
Okay.
Alaska's a bucket list, right? It's a bucket list destination. Some people walk right up to their bucket before they get here, and I was concerned.
So basically the bikes can basically, if it falls over, it can ask you if you're okay, and then it can alert us there's an issue with the bike, and we can contact you. And if you don't respond, they can call 911 and have them there very, very shortly.
Good
Yes.
question. So my biggest question has to do with customer validation. Almost your last statement kind of addressed that with having 500 prepaid, but I'm just looking at the viability of it in a cold weather climate and how that works. And although you have 500 signed up, like what other customer validation have you pursued?
So we attended the 25 events that we described throughout the summer, spoke with thousands of people. We did all of our own customer discovery because we were the ones who would have the power to make decisions if changes needed to be made. One of the things that 500 membership is pre-purchased. So that's 500 individuals who've already paid for their memberships. In addition to that, the half a dozen businesses or so that are already buying in as well. I'm trying to think about how to respond to that more thoughtfully beyond our personal interaction, the purchases made, and the engagement by the community.
At what point does it become a sustainable and profitable for you? So we have 500 signed up already right now,
which is more than most bike shares start with in their first year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in that regard, we're actually already into the range, which is a viable bike share on a continuing basis. Although another critical piece is casual users.
Right.
Well, yeah, in terms of usage, is casual users, and that, of course, tend to be tourists who come into the community, jump on the bike for an hour or two. That, of course, you don't know until you put it in front of the tourist and find out.
Right.
That said, we have had, if you look at FairBikes and our discovery's been that like maybe 30% of the community actually is familiar with bike sharing at most. What we found is that when we talk to people visiting FairBikes, that about 9% of the tourists are familiar with bike share. In fact, most have used the bike share before.
Many, we would ride up on these green bikes that were our prototypes, and they would ask us where they could get them. So we won't know, and the truth is that no product survives its first encounter with a customer. We completely expect that there'll be questions and uncertainties and things that we'll have to shift or pivot on, but the feasibility studies we've read, the annual reports we've read, when we started this adventure, there were 375 bike shares worldwide. That was March 2013. Today, there are over 600. Turns out 2013 was the year of the bike share. And so we're getting a pretty consistent flow of really new data, so we won't know until it's been tested out, so over some more time, that so far bike shares that have a large tourist component, which ours would, tend to see an increase of 3% to 11%, depending on where they are. We're presuming 3% is the safer bet, and so when we looked at our market, that picture of our market, each one of those represented 3 or less, 3% or 1% of that community that we have. So if there's 3,611 average annual, daily users of a summertime Fairbanks that are tourists, we only counted on between 1% and 3% of them to make that number for us. Does that make sense?
And I guess, get on that, but also, are we the most, would this be the far northest?
Oh yeah.
Just
by
a little bit. There's some in Norway that are pretty close, but not quite as far north as Fairbanks.
We also aren't going to year-round.
Anchorage, that's another story. What was I going to say? We are playing this as a seasonal, as it's not going to go year-round. There's just too many issues in Fairbanks to have it going December or January. Particularly darkness.
John is one of those crazy 40 below bikers. That's what he does. But I May 1, October 1. Yes, sir.
Tying into what he was getting at, I think it was very good marketing. Don't get me wrong, I think it was a very good marketing presentation, but I'd like to see metrics. I like to see financials. I have no idea what your margins are, what the competition has done. You said there's 600. Where's that information? Well, why is that not being presented? To be interested as a potential sponsor, I'd like all that data. None of it was here. It's a great marketing piece. Bikes are bikes. I think everybody can understand it. It's very simple business, so to speak. Well, you need to build that into it, because without that, I'm not interested. I want to know, can you make money? Because 500 places, even if it's 1,000, that's 75 grand a year.
Right.
You got insurance, you got repairs, you got bikes stolen, on and on and on. Your time and effort. So I think you need to build that in.
Okay.
Do you have that, or?
Quite a bit of that. Obviously, we're still exploring lots more of that, since there's still plenty to learn and plenty for the community.
Well, we have done financials. We do have a forecast, and we have P&L projections, and we haven't broken it down into formats. We've been getting mixed messages about what we present. Some are like, don't show them your numbers. Some are like, absolutely, they need your numbers.
We told you not to show them the numbers.
I think people who were expecting that if you're really interested, you'll ask, and then we'll do the next layer with you. I don't want to say names.
I would say in every presentation, I've been in hundreds of them, I want to see numbers.
Right on.
And that's from other locations in here. I'll be honest with you, people want to see that to go to the next level. Because I may or may not be interested based on your ability to gain market share and margins and exploding and coming to Anchorage. I'd like to see,
Right.
all that stuff tied in. And anybody tell you not to show numbers, you don't show them all maybe, but you got at least feed them a little bit to make them interested and hook them, okay?
Absolutely. I like
Please.
And is that more important for the possible investor or for the possible advertiser?
Both.
Okay.
If I'm gonna advertise and spend my money there, I wanna
Okay.
know what I'm gonna get for it.
Uh-huh.
I wanna know how many people are gonna be doing it, whether you're gonna be in business at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be based on your financials. So all that's tied in, I think. So I think if you show some, look, again, it was a great marketing piece.
Right.
I would cut a lot of that out, because I think you have overkill on the marketing side, and then build more on the business side of the financials, a little bit more about even the competition. For instance, I like to know in Fairbanks, I go there maybe 3-4 times a year, so I'm not a big Fairbanks person, but, competition versus how much can I save taking a bike versus the cab?
Oh, Mike.
I like to know that. Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
saying, I like to know that. Hey, here's the cost savings. You're coming up there and renting a car is expensive. Can I grab a bike? And of course, the airport's a little further out, right?
Right.
At
Although they've
my
asked us
age,
to
I don't
put
know if I
one
want
there.
to bike into town from there, but.
Right. They've asked us to put their one there, but
It's manageable,
not for tour. I mean, we pointed to them that tourists usually come with bags. So, but
Yeah, okay. I'm just throwing it out
no,
there.
that's awesome
Okay.
because we have gotten we've looked to put numbers in a number of times and been.
Well, look, I'm only one person, I tell everybody
Okay.
that, but I've done this for a long time, and I do teach it, but I've never seen any that people don't have at least some idea of what the market size is, what are your potential chance of taking some of that revenue, and how much revenue you can generate, your margins, because I don't know if this is a profitable business, I still don't.
Right on.
I have no idea if that's profitable.
You can answer questions for a second.
Because your insurance, and your repair costs, your buying a bike cost, I have no idea.
Right.
And even as an ad guy,
Yeah.
who actually does media buys and trying to figure out, like, is that a viable thing for me to actually advertise onto?
Right.
I want to know, what is your reach? How many people am I going to see? All those type of things that is going to be very intriguing for an advertiser.
Yep.
We'll pursue.
So are you saying that you'd primarily be interested in seeing like how many exposures per day type of
Yeah, just
numbers?
put your logo here. How many people are going to see that?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good. That is in our business plan. More questions?
Yes.
I have a two-part question. One,
Okay.
who holds the patent for the technology that you created for the
A to B bike share that we're working with.
Okay, and so do you have plans to license that to other bike share programs?
I do not believe that that is their plan. I think that their plan is to be the technology resource for other bike share programs. We are working with them and Rugged Cycle to be sort of a trifecta for good. But the engineers hold the patent.
Okay, so it's not unique to your model. And then,
Actually, many pieces are unique to our model, but they were designed by these engineers.
okay. And then, so I'm thinking through the process of not having a kiosk. And one of the things that's nice with a kiosk is, when I went to DC and I rode Capital Bikes, there's a kiosk there. It's very easy to figure out how the bike share system works. And there's like a landmark that you can go to. So what will you be doing, because your market is primarily tourists, so you'll have to be continually educating your customer?
Well, I mean, while we don't have kiosks, we still are planning to have on proprietary racks a banner that explains the system. And of course on on one of the sides, it shows like the dashboard of the system, which actually has the same information that would show up on the kiosk on the electronic display on the bike itself. So you both have the map, how to use the system displayed on the bike when you log in, and you can access it there. We also have a hard copy essentially on the kiosk itself, which both acts, just to make it visible and on the rack, that makes it visible and easy to find. That said, it isn't required to have plugged into that rack, which means that you can also use, for example, like your public bus system has bike racks on their bus stations. You can also use those as insights as well.
So, yeah, I guess kind of what my question is, are you going to have enough bikes to have capacity to do that? And is it going to be branded well and large enough that if I'm coming in, I understand how the system works and that it's for anyone to use?
Right. Essentially, we're planning to have 100 bicycles
And 35 stations.
35 stations. So you have 100 bicycles headed out, you have 35 stations. And it's implied it should be enough.
Changes.
How long does it take to, say your demand spikes in June, how long does it take to increase your, the number of bikes you have?
That actually is a little more challenging because there is a, significant lead time to build bikes, and have them installed. Most bike shares have to essentially increase season, as in if they find they have the classic example of that is Paris that found they had 17,000 2P bikes when they rolled out. It took them a whole year to get 17,000 additional bikes ready for their system.
We aren't anticipating a need for 17,000. We currently have 100 bicycles ready to roll, and the lead time from our engineers was 4 weeks. If we wanted, so if tomorrow a check was cut, 4 weeks from now we would have our bikes built here in town.
Can you just describe, I mean, what you guys see as the core use for a bike like this? Because, 30 minutes, it sounds like that's what you guys are trying to push people in the direction of using for 30 minutes, and that's a different proposition than somebody going out and riding a bike for 2 or 3 hours.
Right, and if you rode our bike for 2 or 3 hours without stopping, it would cost you $6, which is pretty competitive for any of the bikes that you would want to rent down here. Additionally, so we're not actually limiting you to 30 minutes. What we're doing is giving you the option to keep it free by stopping it every 30 minutes, which increases the likelihood that you would use local shops and other destinations. But bikes are not meant to replace cars. What they are is meant for, there are a dozen things that happen a day that would be convenient for you to do but aren't quite convenient for you to walk to, or would be convenient for you to do if you were willing to take your car, but then that means dealing with traffic and parking, which increases that time. And bike share bikes fit that medium bill. And there's a graph out there that I need to steal or appropriate that shows what that range is. But the idea is that it makes it an everyday convenience. If normally you would leave to go for lunch and you would go out and you'd grab a car, you'd walk, if the bike is right there, then it's no big thing to use it. And if you can leave it where you are or bring it back to where you come from or where you get started, you're more likely to do it. And we find that with a bicycle, you're likely to go a little farther, explore a little longer, give yourself a little more time to get more done.
So these typically are commuter bikes, as in, making just a jaunt to across the town to do something or to run an errand or whatever that is. Doesn't mean you can't just use it for recreational purposes as well, but still they're primarily short hops.
So
that's how we intend them. But what we're seeing in terms of the feedback from other bike shares nationwide is that people tend to use them more for socializing, dining, and recreational things. We suspect that's very much its first layer, but it's a nice layer to start with because biking is fun. You aren't going to get on a bicycle because it's going to reduce your carbon footprint. You might, but you're not likely to make it that's not necessarily your driving force. You're not going to do it for cleaner air across the board. You're not even going to do it for economic reasons across the board. You're going to do it because it's fun and because there's no barrier. It's convenient.
Maybe one more question, or two if they're quick.
So just what do you guys need from here on out to get started? Like in your presentation, it's simple, it's validated, you've got 500 people signed up. Help me, I'm just interested in like your next step. What do you need?
So our next step is that we need funding that will tip the scale, that makes it something that that can be sustainable year after year. That to us looks like sponsorship.
I was going to say that one of the major values that most bike shares offer is association with the rollout and the name being associated with.
Like city bikes?
Yes.
Right, like city bikes, or like Alaska Air now in Puget Sound.
In Fairbanks.
Right.
Right.
But how much do you need?
$250,000 a year for 5 years.
So you need $1.25 million.
Mm-hmm. Which is significantly
I
less
was
than
going to
most
say
of
that
them.
that's actually the total rather than the actually the sponsor that necessarily look for. As in, to sponsor a bike share this size, the typical sponsor size has been in the $500,000 range for 5 years. Total cost, as she said, in the
That's your total ticket that you need in before you start operation.
No, if we had $250,000 right now, we'd be able to get all the bikes here.
Okay, so you need $250,000, not $1.25 million.
Correct.
But most
That's more doable.
right, but most sponsors do sign up for like a 5-year stint.
Commitment.
Sure.
And they usually do, sort of spread that over the 5 years.
We do this part too.
Cool.
The other thing is that we have an expertise as grant writers, and so we chose not to start with grants for very specific reasons about sustainability and our own personal perspective on how this should roll. This started as a case study. But that is our expertise, and RFPs do come out in January. So one way or the other will make that happen. But
one of the advantages of doing it as not grant funded, in part because we've reduced the cost by 70%, is that we views it as a possible revenue. Basically, what we're thinking is that it could be a for-profit, it could be part of a nonprofit that generates
Sure.
revenue that is not.
Good thing.
Your
Yes.
question.
And I was just going to add the idea of partnership to that, because I know that the federal sector is a huge part of the economy here in Anchorage. And actually, there's a new reimbursable program for federal employees that will give them up to like $200 a year to ride bikes.
We have
Actually,
changed
it's been
it.
around since 2009 as a tax reimbursement piece, and you're absolutely right.
Oh, well, for interior, it's above and beyond the tax reimbursement.
Awesome.
It's a new program. And
Awesome.
so there's a possibility to link up with some of the rideshare vans maybe and
Right.
do that. So that's another good option,
Explore that one.
especially in
Yes.
the federal building with GSA.
Right. And there was something I was going to say about that. And we've been approached by 2 different nonprofits already who've said, if you need a nonprofit to hold hands with, please come to us. So, and that is a nice thing.
Great, thank you.
That's it.
Typically, we end our presentation with asking what you need from the community, but Joe asked that pretty well. Thanks for wrapping it up.
Community advice.
Yeah. So I did want everyone in the audience to meet some of our committee members. Matt behind the camera is on our planning committee. Will Kaiser with ADC, and Britt and I were the founders of the board and where we are today. So if you're interested in presenting, please get in touch with us. If you'd like to engage with the planning committee, we'd love to have more young, energetic, not young, but energetic entrepreneurs as well. So thank you so much, and feel free to ask these folks some more questions as we wrap up informally networking.
Yeah. Thank you.